That was fast! Next Starship full stack ready for testing. What's next? How did Starbase change in 2023? Can SpaceX hit 100 launches this year? And testing of Ariane 6 ends with a failure. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It, let's dive right in. Starship updates. Welcome back to Starbase, where just a month ago humanity's largest rocket yet spectacularly ascended into the skies. Just 30 days later, SpaceX is already on the brink of launching another one. Don't believe me? Check this out. Last week saw a flurry of activity with the rollout of Starship 28, swiftly followed by a spin prime test of all 6 Raptor engines. The tempo of these events is simply mind-blowing. We'll compare that to ESA and Ariane 6 later in the video, stay tuned. The next in line was a static fire of all 6 engines, which didn't happen at the time despite multiple testing road closures. There was a good reason behind this delay, which I'll delve into shortly. New road closures were announced for December 21st and 22nd. On December 20th, Ship 28's igniters were tested and an overpressure notice was released. This static fire is a critical milestone, paving the way for testing the upper stage in combination with the Super Heavy booster. As it seems, everything looked fine on Ship 28, another milestone checked for integrated flight test number 3. And speaking of boosters, one's rollout is an event that arguably overshadows even a ship's static fire. This brings us to Booster 10. This prototype had been biding its time at the rocket garden, awaiting its turn for testing at the launch site. It seems we may have underestimated SpaceX efficiency, as recent changes to the orbital launch mount included a fresh paint job on the legs and the removal of scaffolding from the water deflector plate. Then, in an unexpected twist, Booster 10 made its journey to the launch site on December 18th in the middle of the night. I guess when Elon mentioned that the orbital launch mount, so the pad on which starships are launched, is in good shape, he really meant it. On the same day as its arrival, there was an initial attempt to lift the prototype onto the launch deck, but it had to be aborted, possibly due to issues with the booster stabilization pins. The following day, the chopsticks or Mechazilla's arms successfully hoisted the Super Heavy onto the orbital launch mount. Then the refurbished booster quick disconnect was attached, powering up the prototype's internal systems. As is often the case recently, SpaceX released some stunning images of the gateway to Mars, reaffirming that these prototypes are the next pair slated for the orbital flight. Later, a test of the detonation suppression system brought us one step closer to the next launch. Given the current progress, I would anticipate a full deluge test soon, followed by a spin prime of all 33 Raptor engines. While it seems unlikely that we'll see fire under Booster 10 this year, with SpaceX, one can never rule out surprises. What are your thoughts on the potential launch date? Are we looking at January, February, or perhaps later? Share your predictions in the comments, we're rapidly getting closer. Shifting focus to the build side and particularly to the rocket garden, the situation with Ship 26 is becoming even more intriguing. Last week we saw the addition of a reinforced plate at the joint between the forward dome and the payload section. Now, recent images captured by our photographer John reveal the installation of thick vertical stringers in the same area. What are they doing? Maybe testing of S-24.2, the test tank, revealed a huge design issue, or perhaps Ship 26 isn't even close to retiring. We'll keep an eye on this for you. Definitely an interesting development. The atmosphere at the high bay has changed since Ship 28's departure. Now the remaining prototypes finally have some room to breathe. However, SpaceX is yet again sending us mixed signals. Currently, 3 ships are housed in the bay. Ship 32 to the left, Ship 30 in the right rear corner, and Ship 29 at the front. And there's been noticeable activity with the workers masking up the Ship 30 lift points. Perhaps after all, the new ship lifter is the new standard? While Ship 28 was moved with its crane lifting points still attached, this might be more of an exception rather than the norm from now on. For now, SpaceX has stopped producing new prototypes, but once the fabrication of V2 ships begins, the segments will most likely be built inside the Star Factory. A significant change was seen there on December 18th, when an interesting piece of hardware was introduced into the expanded section of the facility. Upon closer inspection, these parts seem vaguely familiar, but to fully grasp their role, we need an aerial perspective, courtesy of Redline helicopter tours. Here we're looking at the Sanchez site, a location likely well known to you if you are a returning viewer. SpaceX has long been constructing various hardware pieces here, including a booster transport stand and an engine installation platform, which is already in place at the first megabay. However, there have been a couple of components at the site that seemed puzzling, notably a white structure and a small platform. A popular idea was that this would become a ship engine installation platform. However, SpaceX is already working on a full-sized one, so it seemed rather unlikely that that was the case. Now, the mystery of those peculiar parts at the Sanchez site is finally solved. Inside the Star Factory we can see a platform identical to the one at Sanchez, now mounted atop the white structure. So what exactly is this setup used for? Here's how it works. Panels for a Starship nose cone, the very tip of the rocket, are secured onto this jig, and then a robotic welding arm fuses them together. The assembly then rotates to align the next panel for welding, and the process is repeated until the part is finished. It is likely a nose cone welding table, a simple yet very useful tool. In front of this welding jig there is another intriguing component, a barrel-like structure. This piece is probably one of the two tables previously seen at Sanchez. Its exact purpose is less clear, though it could be used for creating the domes found inside both the ships and boosters. All these components are there to further increase the production quality of the V2 Starship. Next-gen hardware. Will those next-gen chips already be fully operational? Leave your opinion in the comments. Now, how about you go see all of this for yourself? Book your own ride at Starbase and see these things in person, or just enjoy one of the most incredible views in the world. Go to redlineheli.com/Felix, you'll find the link in the description as well. I promise you won't ever forget this. We can expect the production rate of Starships to skyrocket in 2024. As we close out the year with this final episode, our team is taking a well-deserved break after consistently delivering 2 Starship updates every week for months. Let's take a moment to reflect on the major milestones at Starbase in 2023. It's been quite the journey, and looking back gives you an idea of how fast it actually was. January started with a focus on full-stack testing. Believe it or not, at that time, a fully fueled Starship was yet to be seen on the orbital launch mount. A lot of effort was devoted to stress testing the hold-down clamps, ensuring that they could actually withstand the immense load of nearly 5,000 tons. Fortunately, the OLM passed this test with flying colors, setting the stage for an orbital test campaign. By the end of January, the first orbital pair, consisting of Booster 7 and Ship 24, was not only stacked but also fully fueled, simulating flight-like conditions. That was a huge milestone. February was focused on advancing the Starship test campaign and fortifying the launch site to withstand the liftoff. That's also when we saw the first Booster 9 test with its firing of 31 Raptor engines at 50% thrust. Meanwhile, the launch deck began receiving its protective shielding. It is crazy to think that just a few months ago we had an unobstructed view inside the OLM. Now it's all nicely covered. Around the same time, the upper stage of the next Starship, Ship 25, was being tortured at the Massey's test site. March brought 2 critical events. First, Booster 10, the current candidate for launch, was fully assembled, starting its test phase. Secondly, construction commenced on the second megabay. In less than a year, SpaceX went from an empty site to a nearly finished structure, not to mention that the entire building was originally destined for Florida. April was heavily focused on launching the first full Starship. Booster 7 and Ship 24 were reunited, leading to a launch attempt on the 17th, which unfortunately was aborted. However, success followed 3 days later when Starship finally lifted off. In hindsight, the engineers would probably prefer to wait for the installation of the deluge system, as the whole launch site looked like a battlefield afterwards. This started a phase of extensive repairs. Numerous piles were drilled to stabilize the OLM, and reinforced concrete was added everywhere to prevent similar damage in the future. SpaceX also installed a water-cooled steel plate alongside a high-pressure water system. The deflector came online in July, culminating in an impressive 33-engine static fire of Booster 9 in August. This is crazy. Concurrently, Ship 25 was wrapping up its test campaign at suborbital Pad B, marked by a successful 6-engine static fire. September was filled with regulatory hurdles, particularly involving the FAA waiting game. Let's not do that again, please. During this period, we witnessed multiple stackings and destackings of Booster 9 and Ship 25. The endless cycle looked something like this. Stack the rocket, tweet that it's ready to launch, find an issue, destack, and repeat. Despite SpaceX's readiness for launch, bureaucratic delays primarily due to the Fish and Wildlife Service's environmental concerns cast doubt over the possibility of any launches in 2023. Finally, November brought a breakthrough when the FWS decided that the deluge posed no significant environmental threat, and the FAA finally granted SpaceX the go-ahead. The second Starship launch, though not reaching orbit, was a landmark event. Despite the explosive outcome a few minutes after the liftoff, it achieved numerous milestones, including the testing of hot staging and executing a partial boost back burn. Fast forward 30 days and preparations for the third Starship launch are already in full swing. 2023 has been a roller coaster filled with breakthroughs, setbacks, and countless emotions. Yet the most exciting part about this is that this is just the beginning. 2024 promises to be even more eventful, potentially kicking off with the third Starship flight. I expect to see significant advances, especially in projects like the human landing system, and if we're lucky, we might even witness an attempt to catch a booster. So what's your take on Starship's prospects for 2024? How many launches do you expect? 4, 5, or perhaps even more? Place your bets in the comments, I love reading them. And while you're at it, check if YouTube unsubscribed you without you knowing. This is not a joke, this does happen frequently. So please double check that subscribe button so you don't miss our updates. And while checking, hit the like button and consider becoming a wise supporter for exclusive SpaceX updates. With it, you get access to daily Starbase photo galleries, now including orbital, aerial, and ground photos of SpaceX's progress, and countless other extras on top. No matter how much you decide to give, everyone gets the same supporter content and access. You decide what you want to give. Check our new website as well. Launch previews, articles, road closures, the latest weather report, and our multi-stream viewer, whataboutit.space. The link to our Patreon page and the new website is in the description. Thanks to all the supporters who help lift our production quality higher and higher. We can't thank you enough. You rock. On to some more news. Today we remain on the topic of SpaceX, though our focus shifts from Starship to Falcon. Ever heard of a rocket traffic jam? Keep watching. December has been a challenging month for SpaceX, particularly concerning its launch schedule. Remember the X-37B mission we discussed 5 episodes back? It still hasn't launched yet. In fact, LC-39A hasn't seen any launches for over a month and a half. The cause? Issues with the final Falcon Heavy mission of the year. The first official launch attempt for the USSF-52 mission was on December 10th, but it ended in a scrub, reportedly due to unfavorable weather conditions. A subsequent attempt the following day also resulted in a scrub, and on the 13th, SpaceX finally announced they were standing down from launching the mission at the time. The new launch date is now set for December 28th, but given the secretive nature of the mission, no explicit reason for the delay has been provided. Now you might be wondering, why not just roll out a Falcon 9 in the meantime? After all, it uses the same launch pad, right? Unfortunately, it is not that simple. Launching a Falcon Heavy involves more than just moving the rocket and pressing a big red launch button. There is this thing called the Falcon Transporter Erector in the way. As the name suggests, it's used for moving the rocket from the horizontal integration facility to the vertical launch pad, and thus transitioning it from a horizontal to a vertical position. Duh. The Transporter Erector, or short TE, can be configured to support either Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy, but switching between these configurations is a time-consuming process. Typically, transitioning from Falcon 9 to Falcon Heavy setup or vice versa takes around 3 weeks. This is due to the need for various adjustments, such as changing the rocket's hold-down clamps, adding quick disconnect systems for the side boosters, and modifying the reaction frame to accommodate the load of 2 extra rockets. There is a reason why it is called Falcon Heavy, hence until SpaceX launches the delayed mission, LC-39A remains closed for other rockets, which could have interesting effects on SpaceX's future launch schedule. One immediate concern is the Axiom 3 private mission to the ISS scheduled for January 10th. At the time of recording this episode, the launch pad for this mission still hasn't been chosen. Even if USS F-52 launches on its rescheduled date, reverting LC-39A back to Falcon 9 configuration in time would be a challenge. That's why we might see the AX-3 mission shift to Slick 40, where work on the new crew tower is ongoing, but, according to SpaceX, could be ready for use if necessary. First crewed launch from Slick 40, this sounds awesome. Another mission potentially impacted by these delays is the second mission for NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program. SpaceX is going to the moon. This mission involves Nova-C, a lunar lander developed by Intuitive Machines carrying various NASA payloads straight to the lunar surface. Similar to the inaugural Vulcan Centaur launch, this mission needs to align with specific lunar launch windows. Any delays could push back the launch by several days or even weeks. The worst part is that this particular mission has to be launched from LC-39A. You see, SpaceX has actually modified the transporter erector to fuel the payload just before liftoff. That is why it's the only pad that can support this mission. The compounded effect of the Falcon Heavy's delay and less than ideal weather conditions in December means that SpaceX won't be able to achieve its ambitious target of 100 launches in 2023. And yet, the launch record for this year is nothing short of impressive. So far, there have been 88 Falcon 9 and 4 Falcon Heavy launches, totaling 92 flights. Plus, we've seen 2 Starship launches. With 4 or 5 more launches anticipated before the year's end, the score could reach 97 or 98. While this falls short of the targeted 100, it's still a remarkable feat, especially when compared to SpaceX's biggest competitor, United Launch Alliance. Do you know how many launches ULA was able to squeeze in this year? A whopping 3. What's even more exciting is that for SpaceX, this is only the beginning. They've set an even more ambitious goal for 2024, aiming for 144 launches. This would mean launching approximately every 2.5 days. I wouldn't believe it if any other company made such a statement, but SpaceX, they'll probably achieve it, and I can't wait to see it. Our house here at the Cape will be rattling nicely. For our last news of 2024, we're turning our attention to Arianespace and their Ariane 6 rocket. This project is also beset by delays, albeit on a scale of months or years rather than days or weeks. Yet there has been progress towards the Ariane 6's first flight, which may have recently experienced another major delay. The last time we discussed Ariane 6, the rocket had successfully completed a 7-minute hot fire test of its core stage. The next major test involved firing the upper stage under degraded conditions, a term which remains somewhat vague, but it's likely meant to test the engine's limits. Unfortunately, it looks like these limits were crossed, as during the December 7th test in Lampolzhausen, Germany, the Vinci engine's trial was aborted just 2 minutes in. The European Space Agency reported that certain parameters exceeded the established safety thresholds, triggering an automatic shutdown. This sounds pretty vague, doesn't it? Let's fill in the details, shall we? Our sources told us a few details regarding this failure. According to them, the tested engine had been fired 18 times before this test. The firing itself was supposed to last about 10 minutes, and the shutdown was caused by vibrations in the turbo pumps. Early analysis suggests that the liquid hydrogen turbopump experienced a significant failure, with one of its impeller blades breaking away from the assembly. Fortunately, the engine itself likely survived this incident, and only a new turbopump would be needed as none of the fragments made it downstream. This will take some time, but I can't stress enough that this is exactly what testing is for. Finding such a weak spot is essential for operational flights of Ariane 6 down the line. As it stands, the launch window for Ariane 6's maiden flight is scheduled to open on June 15th and will extend until July 31st, 2024. Given the recent setback, it's reasonable to assume that the actual launch will likely occur closer to the end of this window. Yet, this at least gives us a rough time frame to work with. I hope that Arianespace, DLR and ESA can overcome these challenges and finally go back to launching payloads. They certainly deserve it. The European market needs its own reliable rocket launcher, and Ariane 6 could be the answer to this need, not reusable yet, but their own operational vehicle. That's it for today. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe for more awesome content. This is what fuels the algorithm and helps us immensely. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store, and the new full scent shirt has arrived, and you can even get it printed on Under Armour and Adidas shirts. This might possibly be the best Christmas gift out there. Link is in the description. Thank you very much for sticking with us through 2023. Even more exciting stuff is coming in 2024. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all Y viewers. See you next year. Duh. Looby, looby, looby. Constructing. Mate, we...